I bent down to pick up my silk robe, the same one I'd worn to comfort Mark through every fever and fretful night of his boyhood, now crumpled on the dewy lawn like a discarded dishcloth. Above me, from the second-story window of the home I'd helped pay for, Amelia's voice pierced the morning air like a blade. "We don't need your charity anymore. Go die in a nursing home." The words clanged against my ears, impossible and true. I stood there barefoot on the lawn of 4127 Prescott Road, in plain sight of the neighbors, plastic lawn chairs, and the dead silence that followed her scream. It was 9:17 a.m. on a Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, humid, bright, the kind of day you'd think would never hold a betrayal. Then came the thud of my suitcase landing just shy of the hedge. The zipper had sprung open, scattering my slips and vitamins like confetti on wet grass. I didn't speak. I couldn't yet. I reached into the robe's deep pocket, still draped over my arm, and felt the soft, wrinkled edge of the lottery ticket. Louisiana lottery ticket, hashtag 450,892, purchased at the CVS off Government Street just 2 days earlier. My name was still there on the back, black inked in a tidy line, Janetta M. Fields. It hadn't been claimed yet. It hadn't even been mentioned. They didn't know. Amelia slammed the window shut with a finality that said she considered the matter settled. Above me, I heard the hiss of the air conditioning kicking on. Inside, my son Mark was surely sitting on the couch I'd bought, on the rug I'd cleaned, letting the woman he married hurl me out like moldy bread. My heart burned, not because of her words, but because of his silence. No one came to help. No one rushed over. A few heads turned and turned back. Early retirees on the porch. Coffee mugs paused halfway to their lips. It wasn't the spectacle. It was the familiarity. Like they'd seen versions of this before and knew how it ended. The old woman leaves. The new family stays. But I wasn't gone yet. I gathered my things, piece by piece, and tucked the lottery ticket deeper into the robe's lining, right over my heart. I tied the robe tighter around my waist and stepped off the lawn, silk brushing my calves with every step. My heels pressed into the sidewalk, cold and pebbled against bare skin, as I moved away from the house that bore my name only in memory. The morning sun was brutal, not for its heat, but for its clarity. Everything looked too sharp, too true. I sat down slowly on the curb with my purse in my lap, right across from the bougainvillea hedge I'd planted the first spring we moved in 2021. I'd picked that spot for the sunlight, said it would bloom wild with the right trimming and attention. It had. 3 years later, it was the only thing still thriving around here. The front door clicked shut. Mark didn't look at me, just turned, hands still on the knob, and disappeared behind it. I saw the blinds adjust, just a sliver, then snap back in place. Cowardice has a rhythm, and Mark had mastered it. I opened my purse to check for my phone charger and caught a glimpse of the paper I hadn't meant to bring. A folded bank statement from Chase, slipped in from yesterday's errands. The corner poked out beside my wallet, taunting. I pulled it out and stared. Social Security deposit, $1,482. Auto transfer to Mark and Amelia Fields, $600 every month since February 2021. I did the math quickly in my head. That was 20 months straight, not counting the extras. Rent when they were short, groceries when the SNAP card didn't go through, diapers, back when diapers were the excuse. A rusted pickup rolled by, its muffler whining as it passed. The driver glanced but didn't slow. The world moved on. The street, too familiar now to ache, smelled faintly of cut grass and fried oil from the church's chicken up the block. This was what it meant to be old and female and invisible. Until you're inconvenient, until your generosity expires. Across the street, the blinds moved again. This time it was Amelia, just her eyes, gleaming with something like victory. She wanted me gone. She wanted my silence. And Mark, my only child, wanted whatever she wanted, apparently. But I wasn't broken. Not yet. I touched the pocket again. That ticket was still there, still cool and wrinkled, like a secret pressed close. They'd thrown me out like I had nothing left. They had no idea. The first year, I told myself it was just temporary. A little help while Mark got back on his feet and Amelia adjusted to the baby. I'd say it while folding their laundry, shirts with tiny logos, leggings, stained bibs. I'd hum something old and sweet, maybe Mahalia, just to remind myself this was love. Family took care of family. That's what I told myself, even when I handed over half my check. Even when Amelia walked past me like I was a ghost carrying a basket of towels. The kitchen was where the rhythm lived. I had my station, right side of the sink, morning light from the window over the garden patch. I'd stand there scaling fish on Sundays, oil snapping in the skillet. The smell of catfish and cornmeal would drift through the house. And still, Amelia wouldn't come down until the food was plated. Mark would mumble, "Thanks, Ma," without looking up. Every week, I'd save my receipts. Grocery store, gas station, even the Target runs where I picked up socks and prenatal vitamins on my own dime. I didn't toss those slips. I stacked them in a ceramic bowl by the fridge. Nobody asked me to, but habit has its own kind of prayer. One time I bought Amelia a new robe. Soft lavender, embroidered with her initials. I left it on the bed with a note, "For when you need softness." She never mentioned it. By the end of that second year, Mark still hadn't gotten steady work. Every interview came with a reason he didn't get the job. They weren't hiring seriously, or Amelia said it wasn't worth the gas. Meanwhile, Amelia got pickier with the brands in the fridge. Organic juice, almond milk, cage-free eggs. Quietly, I adjusted. There wasn't a single bill they paid on time without me stepping in. Lights, internet, insurance. I learned to keep the account numbers in my planner just to save time. It got so normal, I didn't realize how far I'd slid out of my own life. One night, after paying their $1,220 rent on the first, I opened my own fridge and found half a bottle of mustard, a bag of rice, and some wilting greens. I laughed out loud, that bitter kind of laugh you choke down. Still, I got up the next morning and made them breakfast. It wasn't weakness. Not then. It was belief. That's what makes betrayal so sharp. It pierces where love once lived. The number 11 bus rolled up late, as always. I climbed in barefoot, still wearing my silk robe, purse slung tight under my arm. The driver didn't ask questions. The regulars didn't stare. Baton Rouge teaches you not to linger on other folks' trouble. I got off 3 stops later and sat on the cracked green bench outside the Walgreens on Florida Boulevard. The plastic was warm from the sun. My robe clung damp to the small of my back. I opened my phone and scrolled. Not for news or weather, but for memory. Photo album. Folder marked family. There we were. Amelia in her 3rd trimester, belly high and proud in a maroon wrap dress. Mark beside her in a faded Saints hoodie, arm around her like he'd just remembered to touch her. And me, beaming behind them with a hand on each of their shoulders, like the support post in a collapsing porch. Swipe. Amelia holding the baby, exhausted and grateful. Me in the background with a bottle and a burp rag. Swipe. Mark asleep on the couch, Amelia's feet in my lap. Me looking off camera, smiling like I still believed this was building towards something good. And then I found the voicemail. July 12th, 2023. I hadn't meant to save it, but something had stopped my finger from deleting. "Mama Jean," Amelia said, her voice coated in honey, "you saved us again. I don't know what we'd do without you." That was the month they were behind on rent. Again. I'd wired $1,800 from my savings, even skipped my own dental appointment to make it happen. She never said thank you out loud, just that voicemail. I hit play again, not because I needed to hear it, but because I needed to remind myself that there had been a time, even briefly, when Amelia had needed me enough to pretend I mattered. I opened my Chase app. There it all was, line after line of money sent. The July transfer, logged at 3:17 p.m., Fields rent, emergency, no repayment, no acknowledgement, just dependence turned resentment. Like my usefulness expired once they could stand on their own, and forgot who braced them. I closed the app and stared across the street. A boy was dragging a cooler full of sodas toward the barber shop, sweat streaking down his temple, doing what he had to do. I respected that. What I couldn't respect was the entitlement. The erasure. This idea that love was a service you could cancel. I clutched the phone like it might burn a hole through my hand. Amelia once called me her second mother. Now she was just Mark's wife. And I was just a woman sitting on a bench with a lifetime's worth of proof she never meant a word of it. The next morning, I woke up in Trina's spare room with a crick in my neck and a flame in my chest. I hadn't cried. Not even when I lay down on her air mattress, still wearing the robe from yesterday. But my jaw ached from how tight I'd clenched it through the night. "You sure you don't want breakfast?" Trina asked from the kitchen. "I need to go downtown." She didn't ask why. I left just after 9 o'clock and walked the 6 blocks to the East Baton Rouge Library, downtown branch. Cool air hit my skin when I stepped inside. Smelled like ink and dust and possibility. Mr. Calvin, the head librarian, nodded at me from the reference desk. "Morning, Miss Fields." I nodded back. "I need to print something." "A lot of somethings." He led me to the public computer terminal and gave me a fresh yellow notepad and a paperclip, like he knew I'd need to gather myself. I logged into my Chase account, scrolled back to January 2021, and started printing. Every transfer, every grocery charge, every gift card I sent when they said they were in between pay cycles. I matched them to texts, emails, gas receipts, Walmart drop-offs. 72 pages later, the printer spit out the last sheet. I stacked them into a tidy pile and ran the clip through the top corner. $37,846. That number hit harder than Amelia's words. Almost $38,000. Spent not out of obligation, but love. Spent because I thought I was making a home, not financing an exit plan. I carried the stack to the help desk and borrowed a stapler. Calvin glanced at the papers, then back at me. "That's one hell of a ledger," he said, low. I didn't answer. I tucked the stack into a manila envelope and wrote my name on it. Janetta M. Fields. Not Mama Jean. Not Ma. Just me. Fully named. Fully owned. I left the library with the envelope under my arm and a headache blooming behind my eyes. But also, for the first time in a while, clarity. I knew exactly how much I had given. And now, I knew what it cost me. I'd been the account they overdrew without shame. But I kept every receipt. They liked to say they'd built something. A marriage, a family, a future. But they'd built it on my back, my bank, my silence. That part was over now. I hadn't thought about the 4th of July barbecue until I passed the charcoal aisle in Albertsons. That smell, burnt edges, and sugar glaze took me straight back to the patio. It was early evening. Sun dipping low, jazz on the Bluetooth speaker Mark borrowed from Trina next door. I'd made ribs, beans, and that strawberry sheet cake Amelia pretended to love. We had sparklers, even a few bottle rockets. I'd spent $350 between the groceries and fireworks, but they didn't know that. I never asked them to. Amelia stood just past the sliding door with a paper plate in one hand and a red cup in the other. She was talking low, too low, but the breeze carried her voice farther than she meant it to. I was sitting in the lawn chair near the planter box, just outside the shadow. "He'll never grow up with you around," she said. It took me a second to realize she meant Mark. He was standing beside her, facing the grill, holding the tongs like he didn't know what to do with them. His silence made her words feel like law. She reached out and adjusted his collar, like smoothing fabric could iron out his weakness. "I'm not saying she's bad," Amelia added, louder this time. "She just keeps him soft." I should have said something. Should have stood up and said, "I don't keep him soft. I keep this whole house standing." But I didn't. I just sat there and lit a sparkler with shaking fingers, like a fool, on her own front lawn. The light fizzed up, golden and hot, while I blinked back the sting behind my eyes. Trina came by later with her Tupperware and a knowing glance. "You heard that, didn't you?" I didn't answer, just handed her a slab of ribs and said, "Don't forget the sauce." We never spoke of it again, but I know she remembers. People who've been disregarded learn how to see everything without moving their heads. Back then, I still told myself they were just stressed, that maybe Amelia didn't mean it, that maybe Mark just needed more time to step up. But now, Sitting in my borrowed room with the manila envelope on the dresser and the smell of paper ink still clinging to my hands, I saw it for what it was. The first crack. Not in their relationship. In mine with them. They'd started writing me out of their future that night, one sideways comment at a time. And I'd let them. Because I thought love required endurance. But love without respect is just erosion. August came heavy and wet. The kind of heat that sticks to your ribs and makes everything feel urgent. That was the day Amelia set a glossy brochure beside my coffee cup without a word. We were sitting at the dining table, ceiling fan spinning slow overhead. I was halfway through my second cup when I saw it. Golden Pines Assisted Living, Comfort, Care, Community. A smiling black woman with silver curls on the cover, seated in a garden that looked suspiciously fake. My name was circled in pen on the inside flap. Just beneath a note, ask about October move-in specials. I looked up, slow. What's this? Amelia smiled like she was doing me a favor. Just an idea. You said your knee's been bothering you. And it's got full-time staff. They do group meals, activities. You could make friends. Mark kept his eyes on the baby monitor, pretending he hadn't heard a damn thing. And this, she added, sliding another paper over, is the new floor plan for the nursery. We want to paint next week, so we'll need the room cleared. My room. I didn't say that out loud, just looked down at the mortgage stub tucked into my checkbook on the table. August payment, $450. The same $450 I'd been sending every month for 3 years. The house wasn't in my name, but the house stood because of me. They knew it. They just didn't want to say it. Where do you expect me to go? I asked, voice flat. Amelia didn't blink. Golden Pines does a trial month. You'll be comfortable. They even have bingo. The bile rose so fast I had to swallow it. She stood and started clearing the dishes like the conversation was over. Mark mumbled, "It's not permanent, Ma. Just while we get settled." I kept my hands in my lap so they wouldn't shake. The insult wasn't even in what they said. It was in the planning. The quiet confidence that they'd already made the decision. I was just the last box to check. That night, I called Pastor Roland, told him I needed to talk. We sat in the fellowship room at Greater Hope Baptist. He didn't say much, just let me lay it all out. The transfers, the lockstep silence, the slow shove toward the edge. He didn't tell me what to do, just listened, then said, "God sees what folks do in the dark." I nodded, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel crazy, just deeply, dangerously awake. I started keeping quiet on purpose after that. Not to shrink, to listen. People reveal the most when they think you've accepted your fate. On September 15th, just after 10 at night, I was walking down the hallway with a mug of tea when I heard them in Mark's office. Door cracked just enough to catch words. "She won't miss it," Amelia said. "It's not like she's using it. She said it came from her grandmother," Mark replied, low and tired. "And? That thing could pay for 6 months of formula. We're behind again." I stopped cold. "She's sentimental," Mark added. "She might notice." Then distract her. "Take her to Walgreens for those foot pads she likes. I'll box it up and list it before she gets back." I stepped backward, careful not to let the floor creak, tea still in hand. I knew exactly what they were talking about. The quilt. It was the last thing I had from my grandmother, the one who raised me when my own mama couldn't. Deep plum stitching, faded yellow tulips, and a rip in the corner I refused to fix because she'd made it when she sneezed and tugged too hard on the thread. I kept it in my closet, wrapped in linen. I waited until they were asleep, then opened their shared laptop in the dining room. I didn't need a password. Just clicked through Amelia's open tabs like I was slicing pages in a book. There it was. eBay listing. Freshly drafted. Vintage African-American quilt. Hand-stitched heirloom. Asking $2,200. 2 photos. My quilt spread across the guest bed. Corners pinned, light catching the threads like gold. My mouth went dry. I screenshotted it, emailed it to myself, then closed the laptop and sat there until the clock hit 2 a.m. The next morning, I didn't say a word. Amelia smiled extra hard when I came in the kitchen. Mark offered to drive me to Walgreens before I could even put the kettle on. I told them no thanks, I'd walk, but I wasn't going to Walgreens. I went to Trina's instead and asked her to hold something for me, just for a while. She didn't ask why. She opened her linen closet and made room without a word. That quilt was never leaving my sight again. They thought I was slipping, weak, easy to manipulate, but I'd started gathering receipts, not just paper ones. The kind that stack up behind your eyes until the weight of them makes you unmovable. On the evening of October 2nd, Mark knocked gently on the frame of my door, then stepped back like I was something breakable. "Can we talk?" Amelia was nowhere in sight. Just Mark, palms in his hoodie pocket, eyes darting like a boy about to ask for money again. I followed him outside to the porch. The swing creaked under my weight as I sat, but he stayed standing. That was my first clue something was off. He always sat when he needed something. This time, he looked like he was stalling. "Mama," he said, "we should talk like adults." "Go on," I said, already bracing. "We just need space, with the baby coming and all. You've been through it. It gets tight. We figured maybe you could stay with Trina, or—" The deadbolt clicked behind him. We both turned toward the front door. Amelia's shadow passed behind the glass, then vanished. There was a shuffle, then silence. I stood up slow. "Y'all changing locks?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Ms. Celeste, next door, had a ring cam facing just enough of our porch to catch it all. She sent me the footage that night, Amelia crouching on the stoop, whispering to the locksmith while Mark fidgeted with his phone. Invoice in the trash the next morning. $219, Reiki whole house. Mark cleared his throat like he still had hope I'd understand. "It's not personal," he said. We gotta put the baby first." I looked at him, and I swear I saw the boy he used to be. Knees skinned, hair sweaty, grinning with a popsicle in his hand. The boy who ran into my room after thunderstorms. The boy who used to beg me to stay in the pew beside him during church. Now here he was. A man trying to ease me out of my own home like I was a line item on a moving budget. "I see," I said. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I walked down the steps, one hand on the rail. I didn't look back. Not even when I heard Amelia laughing inside like something had gone right. That night, I watched the video twice, then saved it to 3 places. My phone, my email, a flash drive in my purse. They thought they'd planned this well. But I wasn't finished yet. Tomorrow, I would remind them whose name was printed on the ticket they'd forgotten to ask about. I took the long way to the CVS on Government that night. The October air still clinging to the heat like a grudge. Streetlights flickered overhead. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked once, then went quiet. I stood in the parking lot just past the yellow stripes and reached into my robe pocket. The ticket was still there. Louisiana Lottery # LC 450892. Purchased October 1st at 8:52 p.m. Signed in blue ink on the back. Janetta M. Fields. I hadn't told a soul. They thought they'd won something when they kicked me out. Thought the house, the control, the absence of my charity was the win. But the only win worth counting was folded next to a peppermint and a lint-covered quarter. I held the ticket up to the light from the overhead fixture. You could still see the crease where I'd folded it twice. Once after the numbers aired, again when I realized what they meant. $85 million. I remembered standing right here, 2 nights ago, under this exact light, asking Tamra behind the counter for 2 scratchers and a Powerball. She rang me up, smiled, and said, "Maybe this your time, Miss Jean." I guess it was. The numbers came on TV late. I was folding laundry, not even watching until I heard the first 3 matches. Then 4. Then all 6. I stared so long I forgot to blink. I signed the back immediately. My full name, just like the form said. Tamra had witnessed it, nodding like she knew something was shifting in the air. And now here I stood, looking at the thing they didn't know existed. They thought they'd outmaneuvered me. Cut me out, shut me down. But the future wasn't theirs to claim. It was mine. The ticket went back in the robe pocket, snug against my chest. I turned and looked toward the CVS window. Tamra was working tonight too, stocking gum behind the register. She caught my eye and gave a little wave. I nodded once. Tomorrow, I'd walk into the Louisiana Lottery office on Quail Drive and hand them this rectangle of proof. I'd choose the lump sum. I'd say my name clear and clean for the notary. But tonight? Tonight I walked to the edge of the lot, sat on the curb, and let myself feel what I hadn't dared feel in 3 years. Freedom. The lottery claims office on Quail Drive opened at 9 a.m. sharp. I was there at 8:42, seated in the empty reception room with my manila envelope pressed flat in my lap. The receptionist offered me coffee. I declined. My hands were steady, but my breath was shallow, like my body already knew life would cleave into a before and after. When they called my name, I walked back with Officer Beals, a stocky man in a gray polo and lanyard that said, "Security." He guided me to a private claims room with a frosted window and a framed certificate on the wall. "You brought your ID, ma'am?" I handed over my license and the ticket. "Signed already," I said. He flipped it over, nodding slowly. "Janetta M. Fields. Everything looks in order. Tamra, cashier at the CVS on Government, saw me sign it. October 1st, just before 9. He scribbled that down and handed me a clipboard. "You'll want the lump sum?" "Yes, sir." He ran the calculations. After taxes, federal and state, the total came to $60,245,000. I let the number sit. It didn't sparkle or glow. It sat heavy, clean, real. I signed every page carefully. Claimant, beneficiary, acknowledged. I declined the public photo. They'd never see it coming. Officer Beals notarized the final page and slid the confirmation across the desk. "It'll hit your account within 3 business days. You did good signing early." Most folks forget that part. I folded the receipt, placed it in the envelope beside the 72-page ledger of support, and tucked it back under my arm. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. "Mark, we good now, right?" I stared at the screen until it dimmed. He didn't know. He thought I'd come crawling back after a night on someone's couch. He thought this message was benevolence. I powered the phone off. Outside, the wind picked up. A few golden leaves skittered across the sidewalk. Baton Rouge never gets real fall, but sometimes it fakes the mood. I walked 2 blocks to a cafe and ordered sweet tea. Cash. I sat with my back to the door and pulled out my notebook. The first line I wrote was a name, Fields Legacy Trust. Then, new lawyer, new deed, new locks. Let Mark keep texting. Let Amelia keep planning nurseries and nursing homes. They'd evicted me from a house I paid to hold together. Now, I owned their future, and they didn't even know it yet. Rhonda Wilkins smelled like cedarwood and respect. Her office, Suite 302 at Wilkins and Mays, was paneled in oak, bookshelves tight with estate codes, tax binders, and framed degrees that told you plainly, this woman knew how to protect what mattered. I slid the manila envelope across her polished desk. This is everything. She didn't blink at the 72 pages of financial records. Didn't even pause on the lottery confirmation. She just picked up her pen. "I'd like to form a revocable living trust," I said. "Name it Fields Legacy Trust. Put the lottery funds in it. All of it." "Beneficiaries?" she asked, calm as a surgeon. I hesitated, not because I didn't know, because I'd already decided. "None yet," she nodded. "We can update it later." "You'll remain trustee?" "For now." Rhonda got to work like a machine. Trust formation paperwork, EIN registration, account routing instructions. Her assistant brought in a notary who barely glanced up as I signed line after line with quiet precision. When it was done, Rhonda handed me a thick folder. "Fields Legacy Trust number 001, she said. "Fully established. You now have legal insulation from personal claims, and any future disbursements will go through trustee authorization only." I nodded. My phone, which I'd powered back on just before walking in, vibrated again. Amelia. 16 missed calls in 2 hours. A new voicemail popped up mid-meeting. I didn't listen. I just saved it to the cloud. Outside, the sky had turned silver. The air smelled of ozone, rain brewing somewhere west. I walked 2 blocks to the Chase branch and asked to change my account access. The banker, a young black man named Jarius, raised his eyebrows when he saw the balance. "You sure you don't want a private banking liaison?" "Later," I said. "Today's about control." He reset every PIN, issued new debit cards, and flagged the account for attempted unauthorized access. If anyone tries to log in with the old credentials, we'll freeze it pending review. Good, I said. That night, I sat in Trina's kitchen with the trust folder, 2 pens, and a legal pad. I wrote out every password I'd changed, every lock I needed to replace, every name that would never again be added to anything I owned. They'd stolen my sleep, my dignity, tried to convince me my love was a liability. But my name was on the deed now, and their names were nowhere. I moved into my new rental on October 10th, Unit 6B, Government Street Apartments. 2 bedrooms, clean tile, sunlight that came in warm and wide through east-facing windows. I paid the $2,700 deposit in full, in cash, no questions. The leasing agent looked at me sideways until Pastor Roland walked in beside me and placed his hand gently on my shoulder. "She's with us," he said, voice like velvet over stone. "And she's about to start fresh." They didn't ask for proof of income after that. I didn't bring much, just 2 suitcases. The quilt Trina had kept safe, and the folder labeled Fields Legacy Trust. The rest I'd replace when the time was right. What I needed now were people. Not the kind who asked for help. The kind who kept their word. First, Pastor Roland. He drafted a letter on church letterhead, supporting my transition, affirming my independence, citing my years of quiet stewardship in the congregation. For documentation, he said, in case they try to twist the story. Second, Tamra, the CVS cashier who'd seen me buy and sign the ticket. I walked back in with a new thank you card and a gift card tucked inside. She grinned when she saw me. "I told you it was your time, Ms. Jean. Keep your eyes open," I said. "You might be called to confirm it," she winked. "Any day." Third, Rhonda Wilkins, my attorney, my firewall. She was already 3 steps ahead, preparing letters, filing notifications, making sure everything Amelia and Mark tried would hit legal concrete. That afternoon, I checked Mark's Facebook. Curiosity got the better of me. There it was, a long, winding post with a photo of the baby's nursery. Walls freshly painted, a used crib in the corner. Caption: "Sometimes the people who raised you forget how to love. Prayers up for our family in this hard time." Comments full of sympathy from Amelia's side. "Stay strong. You did the right thing. She'll come around. Old folks get confused." I screenshotted it all. Then I printed it. Black and white. Evidence. They were trying to shape the narrative before I could speak, but they forgot who had the receipts. I stood at my new kitchen counter, hands on the cool stone, looking out at the parking lot below. The quiet buzz of a neighborhood that didn't know me yet but would learn. I had 3 allies: a lawyer, a pastor, and a cashier with a witness memory like a bank vault. That would be enough. On October 11th, Rhonda sent the first package by certified mail. Inside, a cease and desist letter, a formal eviction notice, and the deed transfer paperwork for 4127 Prescott Road, now legally held by JMF Properties LLC, a shell company under Fields Legacy Trust. Ownership had flipped 2 days ago, after I wired $210,000 from the trust's new account. The house Mark and Amelia squatted in, bought clean. They didn't know I'd claimed it. They'd just changed the locks on a property I now owned outright. "Let them read it over breakfast," Rhonda said. We sat together in the Wilkins and Mays conference room. Glass walls, not a sound leaking out. She passed me the certified mail receipt. I pressed my thumb to the ink and nodded. Next steps? They'll panic, threaten, possibly show up somewhere. But legally, they're trespassers now. We're ready. Carlton, the courier, wore a pressed gray suit and matching calm. "I'll get it delivered by 2 p.m. Signature required. They'll know it's real." He tipped his head to me. "You'd be surprised how many rich folks forget to protect themselves. You handled this like you already been rich." I smiled, thin but certain. "I've been poor with dignity. That's harder." By the time I got back to Government Street, the sun was turning gold at the edges. I took off my shoes and set the envelope of copies on the kitchen counter. Just past 3 o'clock, my phone buzzed. Amelia. New text. You'll regret this, you bitter old woman. Then, don't forget who wiped your kitchen floor when you had that flu. The guilt tactic. Right on schedule. I screenshotted everything. Saved the images to my legal archive folder, time-stamped. At 4:45, Rhonda called. They received it, signed by Amelia herself. I didn't respond right away. Just looked down at the old planner I'd kept since 2021. On the cover, I'd once taped a sticky note. Be useful, be quiet, be kind. I peeled it off, replaced it with a new one. Be exact, be loud, be gone. They could smear me online. They could play the baby card. But they could not unsign that green card from the post office. They could not unoccupy a home they no longer owned. And when the dust settled, they'd have to face something they'd never imagined, that I was the one who had written the terms of their comfort. And now, I was rewriting them. They came for me 2 days later, October 13th, a humid Baton Rouge morning where the air sat on your shoulders like wet wool. I'd just stepped into the Chase branch on Perkins Road to confirm wire instructions when I heard the voice that used to call me, Mama! Stop her! Mark's footsteps hit the marble floor loud enough to turn heads. Amelia was right behind him, red-faced, clutching a stack of wrinkled papers like she meant to serve them herself. She's not mentally stable, Amelia snapped, stepping between me and the teller. You need to freeze the account. She's being manipulated. Ms. Ortega, the branch manager, emerged from the back office, heels sharp, mouth set. She recognized me instantly. Ms. Fields, you good? I'm good, I said. But they're not on any of my accounts. Amelia slammed the papers down. Look at her signature. It's shaking. She's not capable of managing this much money. There's elder abuse happening, Mark chimed in. She's being coached by that lawyer, Rhonda somebody. Ms. Ortega blinked slowly, then gestured to security. We've got attempted elder fraud here. Pull the camera footage and flag the account. The guard stepped up. Need you both to step back. Amelia looked like she was going to combust. This is her family. We're just trying to protect her. She's already protected, Ms. Ortega said flatly. Account's been flagged for attempted interference. And we have footage. She turned to me, softening. Ms. Fields, would you like to complete your transaction privately? Yes, I said. And I'd like to log an incident report while I'm here. We went to the back, Amelia still shouting, Mark pretending this was all just a misunderstanding. Inside the office, Ms. Ortega handed me a form and her card. We'll include the footage and teller affidavit. This won't happen again. I thanked her, fingers steady as I signed. I could feel my heart, yes, but not in panic, in precision. By the time I exited the building, Mark and Amelia were gone. I walked across the parking lot, purse heavy with proof. I paused by a nearby tree, took out my phone, and checked the incident number she'd texted to me. Hashtag F 88,472. Attempted unauthorized access, 10:13 a.m. One more receipt. Let them play the confusion card. Let them scream senile and manipulated. But inside that bank, under camera, with a manager and affidavit, I was lucid. And I was far from done. October 15th, 6:30 p.m. sharp, the folding chairs in Fellowship Hall at Greater Hope Baptist were already half full. Baton Rouge doesn't need flyers or RSVPs. Word spreads fast when shame's in the wind. Pastor Rowland stood near the pulpit with a legal pad and a calm that only came from having seen it all. Behind him, we'd set up a projector, a table with my 3 allies seated in quiet strength, Rhonda, Tamra, and Deacon Clay from the church board. I sat front row, quilt draped across my lap like armor. My voice would come later. At 6:41, Amelia walked in. Mark followed 3 steps behind, eyes scanning the crowd. He looked older already, deflated. Amelia, though, held her chin high, wearing a floral wrap dress like she was walking into a wedding she thought was hers. Pastor Rowland opened the evening with scripture. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be brought to light. Then he stepped aside, and Rhonda stood. I'm Rhonda Wilkins, attorney for Ms. Janetta M. Fields, trustee of the Fields Legacy Trust. She adjusted her glasses and clicked the first slide on the projector. Slide 1. Bank statement screenshots. $600 transfers, month after month. Slide 2. Photo of the signed lottery ticket. Slide 3. Voicemail transcript from Amelia, July 12, 2023. You saved us again, Mama Jean. Gasps rippled through the room. Amelia stood. This is a character attack. No, Rhonda said. This is evidence. Slide 4 was the eBay screenshot. The quilt listing, $2,200. Item location, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Amelia paled. She hadn't realized I'd seen that. Tamra took the mic next. I was there when she bought and signed the ticket, October 1st. I watched her write her name. She held up the store logbook. CVS records confirm the sale and timestamp. Then Deacon Clay stood. Miss Fields was evicted from a home she helped pay for. She provided shelter, food, and financial care without title or thanks. That ends tonight. Mark sunk lower in his seat. Pastor Rowland nodded for me to come forward. I stood, quilt over my shoulder. My name is Janetta M. Fields. I'm not confused. I'm not bitter. I'm clear. I bought the ticket. I signed it. I own the house you changed the locks on. And I forgave more than either of you ever earned. I turned to Rhonda. She opened the final folder. Tonight, we make it legal. We are submitting for community record the Fields Legacy Trust Addendum, she said, voice level. This document finalizes distribution terms and inheritance exclusions. She cleared her throat. Clause 12 reads as follows. Mark L. Fields and Amelia M. Fields are hereby disinherited, with 0% claim to the estate, assets, or any trust disbursement now or in perpetuity. Amelia shot up. You can't do that! You're poisoning her! Rhonda didn't even flinch. This is a notarized legal document, signed by Ms. Fields in full capacity, witnessed by 2 deacons, a registered notary, and filed with Wilkins and Mays at 9:12 a.m. this morning. Mark stood, looked like he might speak, but didn't. His jaw worked once, twice, and then he turned and walked straight out the church hall. Amelia stayed frozen, eyes locked on me like if she stared hard enough, she could undo everything with her disbelief. She couldn't. Pastor Rowland stepped forward. We thank Miss Fields for her transparency. This space was chosen for truth, not vengeance. He nodded toward the table. Rhonda passed copies of the addendum to Deacon Clay and Pastor Rowland, each document initialed and stamped. I'd made sure of it. Then Rhonda pulled out one last item, the certified mail receipt from October 11th. Eviction from 4127 Prescott Road was legally processed and served. All occupants have 48 hours to vacate. Ownership resides solely with JMF Properties, LLC, held under Ms. Fields' trust. Amelia tried again, weak now. Where are we supposed to go? You raised him. You loved him. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, I raised a boy who loved comfort more than truth. What he became after that, y'all built together. Pastor Rowland gently tapped the gavel we borrowed from the church office. This concludes the meeting. Let those who witnessed remember. Let those who doubted reflect. The lights dimmed. Rhonda gathered her folders. Tamra patted my arm as she passed. One by one, the room emptied until it was just me and the quilt over my shoulder. Outside, the streetlights buzzed. Inside, silence bloomed like peace. I had not shouted. I had not struck. I had not stooped. I had only brought the truth and laid it bare. And in front of God and witnesses, that was more than enough. October 20th, 2024. A Sunday. The sun rose soft over Lakeside Oaks, bleeding gold over the cypress trees and glinting off the water like a mirror that forgives. The door to Unit 4B clicked open with a whisper. Inside, clean walls, echoing quiet, the smell of lemon oil and potential. I walked the room slow. Bedroom with tall windows, kitchen tiled in pale blue, a wide front room with just enough wall space. From my bag, I pulled the quilt, plum and yellow, faded, but still proud. I hung it in the foyer, high and centered, like a flag that had survived every storm. Then I unpacked the letter from the bank confirming all fraud alerts had been cleared, new pins issued, new cards activated, all security notifications routed to Rhonda and me. I placed that letter in the drawer with the title Deed, Trust Documents, and Notarized Addendum. They would never touch what I built again. My phone buzzed one last time. Email. From Amelia. Subject line, "You'll die alone." No message. Just that sentence. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Rhonda for the file. Then I blocked the address. Death will find us all one day. But I won't meet mine in a house where I'm unloved. I won't meet it holding back groceries so grown children can buy sneakers. I won't meet it in a nursing home selected by people who never truly saw me. I'll meet it on my own terms, wrapped in threads stitched by women who survived worse than betrayal. I walked out to the balcony, where the lake stretched wide and still. A breeze caught the edge of my robe, lifted it like a blessing. Behind me, the quilt hung like a gate that would never open to them again.